Hello, my name's Marty Rawson.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rowan Dixon. Nice to be here with you, Marty. Really looking forward to today, mate. Thank you.
All right, yeah, glad to have you as always. Um, Today we are going to be talking about galactic history and the star nations. This seems to be a popular topic that a lot of people are very interested in. And since disclosure is, I believe, right around the corner, I think it's very appropriate to introduce people to some of the actual history and find out why it's such an epic time to be alive on Earth right now. Okay, it's going to be well worth the trouble. So, um, I know that you have had a few experiences of uh, yourself with some of the star nations. Is there anything that you would like to share before we get started here?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Marty. So firstly, this is how we met because, I was listening to a podcast by Nicole Bigley, a psychic story, and came across two of your interviews you did with you. So that's how I became known about you and contacted you and to see if you did any teachings and workshops and just to connect because I was so incredibly blown away, really, by your knowledge of the star nations and the galactic history. And I was just absolutely fascinated and really incredibly amazed at everything you were talking about, which really took me on a search of my own and opened this whole insight to the bigger picture of the cosmos and our connection. So it was actually an incredible part of my life a few years ago and connecting with you and so on. And I guess then about maybe 2 years after that, Marty, the first experience that I had was with obviously spirit guides and angels and ascended masters and things like that in meditation, but was always fascinated about the star nations and wondering where I'm from in the cosmos and asking lots of questions. And then one day I had an amazing experience doing a Reiki session on our good friend Lisa. And during that session, I was eyes closed doing the Reiki healing for her, and then had a clear vision. First of all, sorry, I heard Palladian, and then the very split second later, right in front of my face, with my eyes closed, through my third eye, I saw a Palladian being, and he looked like us, felt very friendly and very happy to be with me. And I was absolutely, shocked and couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I was so excited that I was tuning in to his face to see what he looked like. And he had a bald head and he just looked human like us, but his eyes were slightly bigger and a little bit more slanted, like we imagine ETs to look like. And he said to me, it's not as important to know what I look like. It's more important to know that I'm here. And then that was it. It was a very brief, very quick, but incredibly profound moment. And that just went, wow. So, what a great opportunity that was. And I was very, very grateful and thankful. And made me realize that, the ETs are with us and we're, from the universe. And then the second experience was with the Arcturians. So I had a session with Peter Smith, who has a spiritual um, business called Quantum Consciousness, and he's able to take you into an expanded state of consciousness to discover things about yourself or answer any questions that you have um, about your life or anything of a higher perspective, and all sorts of beautiful opportunities to find out answers connected to the cosmos and so on and where we're from. And one of my questions was, before I went into the session with him was, where am I from in the cosmos? Where's my home, my true home? Is Earth my true home, or am I from somewhere else? And so he guided me into an altered state of consciousness. And it's important, I think, that people know that this can happen for everyone and that they help to activate our visuals, activate in the altered state of consciousness, in a deep state of relaxation, is how it happens, so that we can experience, whether it's hearing, seeing, feeling, knowing things from spirit and the light beings in the high dimensions, spirit guides and angels and ETs, or whoever it is that wants to communicate with us. And on this particular day, I was in an altered state, being guided through this by Peter, and I started hearing, "We are the Arcturians, we are the Arcturians, we are the Arcturians," over and over and over. But there was a bit of a delay because they were transmitting to me, but I wasn't able to talk it or speak it because I was in a very deep state. But it felt like they wanted me to speak. So in the end, I spat it out. I spoke and I said, "We are the Arcturians." And then they went on and spoke through me for about 20 minutes.
Oh,
Um, yeah, which was incredible. And, I asked I'd asked Peter prior to see if he could ask the question to me and through me and find out in that higher perspective of where I'm from in the cosmos. And the message that came through was that it's not important for me to know at the moment. I will find that out in my lifetime. However, to know that the Arcturians are like brothers and sisters. My planet is like a brother and sister to them. Um, so that was a wonderful message to receive. And yeah, so they're two experiences that I had that really kind of blew my mind, and also to the understanding that this can happen, that we can communicate with beings in the higher dimensions.
all right. That is so cool. And I'm really glad that you added in there that um this can happen to anyone, because I believe that this is going to be happening to more and more people uh with increased frequency. And because that is the way that the star nations make first contact, is actually with you as an individual, so that you can get used to them long before they ever show up in physical. Okay. And so, yeah, they don't like to shock people or, totally surprise them, and they don't want to cause any fear whatsoever. So this is how they make the contact. And as you can, testify for yourself, they're very loving and just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So I'm glad that we opened with that so that people can understand that the beings that we're talking about are much older and very loving, and have ascended into the love and light. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Marty, can I just throw in, a lot of it's got to do with our belief and our intention as well, because prior to that day when the Arcturians came to me, um, I'd been out for a run that morning, and during my run, I sent out intention of, today I'm going to be having this session with Peter Smith, but it's going to take me into a higher state of consciousness, and I would love for someone, it was an open question to whoever is available to me in that moment, to come through with the messages for me that I have. And I didn't mind who it was, whether it was my spirit guides or whoever. It was just an open question, and that's who came through on that particular day. So um, that's sort of how I do things, is just you have intention through your heart that you believe. And I think that's really important. And then once that you have that intention, and then they'll be able to open up with you to transmit messages to you.
Perfect. Yes, I'm glad you clarified that for everybody because that's important. It needs to happen. So cool. So today we are talking about galactic history, which is quite a large topic, to say the least. And as you and I have discussed, you don't cover millions or billions of years of galactic history in 1 hour. So we're going to have to kind of skim over it, and there will be and what is cool about this is that there are other channels that do go into greater depth and specific in certain areas of this. But the overall picture is what I was hoping to help present today so that people could understand the scale, the epic scale of the story that we are involved in and that we are wrapping up. Okay. Because this isn't just one little planet on the outskirts of the galaxy that is meaningless and, happens to have some life going on and, they're, they're just nobody. No, this is an incredible tale. Okay. So we will start with where the Adam Cadmon body type first originated. And I say that because that's the Adam Cadmon body type is what we refer to as the human body type. Okay. They don't all look exactly like us, but the body type is what we're talking about. And I think everybody is in agreement that it was originally created by the incredible masters of the Lyran constellation. And the Lyrans, the royal Lyrans, were actually, I'm going to say, lion type individuals that are very big. They are not 5 foot, 6 foot. They are like very, very, very big. And they literally embody the majesty, the royalty that we see in a lion. Okay. When we see a lion out on the savannah, you just have a sense of nobility right there and a sense of royalty. And that is because that is who they are. Okay. And they are just incredibly wise beings. And they are the ones who created the Adam Cadmon body type. Now, from the Lyran constellation, there was a split off that went to the Vegan system. And they are also of the feline type of beings and also very, very noble. But they had just a slightly different philosophy than the Lyrans did. And so they moved off to Vega. And as time went by, there were different things that happened. And other when the humanoids actually developed into a race and got the ability to travel through space, a lot of them decided that they wanted to branch out and go to other places. And among those, there were some that went to Earth, some that went to Sirius, some that they went all over the universe. They actually started spreading. And at some point, the reptilian, the Draco-Lyran War took place. And that was when the Lyran homeworld was destroyed. And so the Lyrans had to literally branch off and colonize other places. But they have maintained this incredible divine presence that they've always had. And so we can trace our lineage as a species type back to them. But when Earth was very first created, it was created as a living library for life from all over the universe. And it was meant for kind of a meeting place for all different star nations to come and contribute life, and kind of a neutral ground, okay, where it would be a living library. And natural there was a natural formation of hominids that took place on Earth. And if you go back through archaeological records, you would find that there was at least 18 different types of hominids at one time on this planet. So we have a rich history that isn't talked about a whole lot. But in the course of events, after things happened in Lyra, a group of humanoid beings came to Earth, and they were the very first to actually colonize here, besides Lemuria. Okay, this is probably coinciding with the age of Lemuria, because Lemuria was an etheric civilization. But these beings came to Earth, and they did live here for quite a while. And this is, in cosmological time, relatively recent, but to humans, it was still a very long time ago. Okay, we're talking probably millions of years. But they came here, and they really thought that this was a perfect, ideal planet for them to live on. But after they were here for quite a while, they realized that it wasn't as perfect as they thought it was for them. And so they looked at the bipedal hominids that were naturally evolving on the planet, and they thought, well, maybe if we do some genetic modification and take some of their DNA into us, and we'll give them some of our DNA into them, we can do a swap, and maybe that will help us. And so that's what they did. And it actually did help them a little bit. And so they decided to stay. But before long, another group arrived. And I personally believe that it was the reptilians arrived. And because they have a sense of domination over the third dimension. And we won't get into that, but they seem to think that since they were here first, they kind of have the rights to everything. And
could I just ask a question, Marty, if you
yeah,
don't mind? So the first race that you're talking about that came before the reptilians, what race was that? Who were they?
I'm going to get to that in just one second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm glad you asked that, because we're coming
Okay.
right up to that.
All right. Sorry
So
to interrupt you.
no, that's perfectly fine. I appreciate it. So what happened was they decided, you know what, we're not going to even try to. We're not into conflict. We are into peace and love and light, and we don't believe we can cohabitate with these people. So we're just going to go. Okay. And so they searched, and they found a very remote star system where they could be left alone and develop an idyllic civilization. And we know them today as the Pleiadians. Okay. They were some of the very first inhabitants of this planet in the physical or quasi-physical state. And this is important because it will come around to be important later on in this great saga of galactic history. So as time went on, the Pleiadian civilization advanced, the humanoids that went to Sirius, there were already incredible civilizations there, and they were welcomed there, and they ascended into the light there. And many others. We're talking, the Andromedans, the Antarians, there's all sorts of different star nations that went around that are of a humanoid body type, the Adam Cadmon body type. So um, eventually, a group arrived. Well, on Earth, and I don't really want to get I don't want to get to this too awfully early, but um, in the scope of things, the Anunnaki eventually arrive to Earth. And by then, a lot of the reptilians had departed. They didn't totally leave, but most of them had. In the meantime, we go to Sirius because there was a large uh, development of lower vibrational frequency beings um, that had infiltrated the Sirius system over millions of years. And many of them, there's two type of beings. There's service to self and service to others. And the service to self types are the ones who are attached to the physical realities and dominion of physical reality. And they do that through power. And on Earth, they do it through money, which equals power. And all of this, they worship power and wealth and stature and title and all of this. And they really are concerned only with themselves. And it it tends to be a dog eat dog form of reality. And in the Syrian sector, this was the first time a truly large system was infected with such polarity. And the way it worked out in the Sirius sector was that many beings incarnated into the physical, into this lower density situation. And others who didn't want to partake of that stayed up into the higher dimensions, but they were overlighting it. And the problem came when the beings of light in the higher dimensions, and they were star nations, but they decided to keep putting as much love and light into this lower dimensional reality that was having so many dark problems. But the problem is that it was the dark ones who voluntarily incarnated into this denseness, and they did not like the feelings of the light and the love and everything that was coming in, just aggravated them. And so the more the light put in, the more aggravated they became. And this went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth for a very long time until it got to the point that literally the spiritual hierarchy had to step in and said, this is an impasse where we cannot let you keep going because you're just going to destroy yourselves and each other. And we've never had this type of situation come up before, but basically you got to go. Okay. You've got to move on. You've got to, okay, because the Syrian system that was here before this doesn't deserve what's going on. And you really have to move on. And from there, it all, and this is when the Dracos were part of this. Okay. They've always been a part of this polarity thing. And they went to the Orion system. Now, the Orion system is where the big Orion Wars and the big drama took place. Okay. Um, During the Orion Wars, what had happened was the Dracos immediately took control, because if you have service to self and service to others who are going to inhabit, try to cohabitate together, who do you think is going to take charge? It's going to be the service to self. They're going to be the ones that take control, and they're going to dominate their servants. Okay, the ones who are service to others. It's going to happen. It's just kind of a natural way things go. And on Orion, in the Orion sector, because this wasn't just one planet, it was many. It got to be so dark and oppressive, that even with what is done on Earth doesn't compare to what was happening there. Okay, I'll just put it that way. But there did come a resistance from the service to others, and they were called the Black League or the Black Dragons, and that. And what they tried to do was they referred to themselves as the Black League because it was hidden in the shadows. They knew they couldn't take on the Dracos head on. And so it was kind of a guerrilla warfare type deal where they would hide in the shadows and strike as opportunity arose, and they tried to win that way. What they didn't understand is that, and Earth should try to learn from this. We hear the phrase fighting fire with fire. And when you try to react to violence with violence, it just creates more violence and more hatred and more fear and more problems. And so they eventually they really got to the point where they were losing. And what happened was the higher dimensions sent a being of light into the folds of the service to others. And this being grew up as an avatar, knowing who they were, and he taught them the universal laws and the fact that it is only by using a higher vibrational frequency that will transmute a lower vibrational frequency. And what that taught them was that rather than come back at their oppressors with violence and hatred and everything else, they had to come back at them with love. As hard as it was, they had to fight the oppression, they had to fight the darkness, they had to fight the fear with love and light, because darkness and fear feeds on darkness and fear and anger and all of the other lower vibrational frequencies. So when you don't give it that, its reality begins to crumble. And this is exactly what's taking place on Earth right now. So it is, in a very keen sense, we're doing the same thing on Earth. But that is how the service to others actually overcame the incredible oppression of the Orion system. Okay. And eventually, beings started traveling out of Orion. Okay. And that's when the Anunnaki actually came to Earth. Okay. During the Orion Wars, there was much involvement. The Pleiadians actually got involved for a little while, but the Orions actually destroyed one of their home planets. The Dracos did during that war. And as soon as that happened, the Pleiadians said, okay, no, we're done. we're gonna go, we're way over here, you guys are way over there. We'll just leave you alone, you leave us alone. Okay, we really want our, we have a very peaceful, loving society, and we want to maintain that. So the Orion Wars ended, and the Anunnaki ended up eventually arriving on Earth. And they did come to seeking the gold because they had destroyed the atmosphere on one of the planets. And there's so much about this. I won't go into that portion of it because there's a lot of information available on how that happened. But eventually they created a slave race to do the mining because it was just too much work. And we actually have found those mines in South Africa already, and they date to a point of, I mean, hundreds of thousands of years ago. And they know that these mines are that old. And that is maybe not before the creation of Homo sapiens, but definitely before recorded history. Okay. We're going way back. And so the Anunnaki first created a slave race. And the Anunnaki who were here on Earth did that out of, they felt necessity because their own people were getting a little tired of having to do all of this physical labor. Okay. It was hard work. And so they asked their leaders to create a slave race. And so what they did was the leaders looked around, and it was actually Enki and his sister who looked around, and they noticed that one of the bipedal hominids here on Earth seemed to be a little bit more advanced than the others. And that was the one that the Pleiadians had previously exchanged DNA with. Okay. So they took that hominid and they did genetic modifications because they couldn't communicate with it at that point. And they gave it just enough intelligence to take direction and to have a basic level of intelligence, but they did not give it the, they did not activate the DNA sequences, or maybe they deactivated the DNA sequences that had to do with spiritual advancement, because they were simply creating a slave race, that just a dumb worker is what they wanted. And what they didn't think about was that this was actually in violation of their own laws. The Anunnaki themselves had laws against doing this. So when it was discovered that this is what they had done, other races like the Syrians and that came in and said, look, and they literally addressed the spiritual hierarchy and said, allow us to help fix this. Okay, because this is literally against divine law to create a slave species that cannot evolve spiritually. And so they were given the okay to do that. And the first ones they went to were the Pleiadians, because they knew the Pleiadians had lived here once. And so it took a lot of talking, because the Pleiadians still remembered the Orion Wars and didn't want to get involved with anything. But when the Syrians explained what had happened and explained the situation, and that this wasn't about a war, it wasn't about fighting like that, it was about literally helping a species that had been created with no hope, then the Pleiadians said, oh, okay, well, thank you for explaining that. Yes, we understand. we will indeed help. And so when people say the Pleiadians look like us, it is more of the fact that we look like the Pleiadians because the primary donors of the DNA that created Homo sapiens comes from our loving brothers and sisters, the Pleiadians. Okay. Now, the Syrians and about 21 other uh, star nations actually contributed DNA for the creation of the various races of Homo sapiens across the planet. And so they literally created a smorgasbord of incredible divine possibilities on for a species that literally had no hope before this. So it was a group effort that really exceeded all expectations. Okay, but after the Anunnaki left, that's when, and I'm not, the Anunnaki left, but that doesn't mean that all of the dark forces left. Okay. And that's when in our history we record that there was a fall in consciousness. Okay. So because of what has happened, the Earth humans have been given the opportunity to advance in their spiritual growth, but because of the fall in vibrational frequency of our consciousness and everything else, we have been hindered by the controllers of this Earth who took over after the Anunnaki left. We've been under their control and their propaganda, so to speak. And you know, when you limit the thoughts and the dialogue that are allowed to take place, you limit the reality that beings live in. And that's how they have controlled this. It's been by manipulation and control of the dialogue and even the definitions of words and everything else. So it's been a really sad state going from possible incredible hope to another fallen consciousness and control by beings of lower vibrational frequency. But the light will never, ever be denied. Okay. Light and love is always there and has always been with us. So as the awakening that is taking place right now occurs, what is literally happening is that the DNA activations from all of these 23 or so star nations that make up the genetic code of people across the planet, it is starting to become activated. And that's why they have controlled us, because they feared us. They knew that if humans ever realized that they were beings of light that had the incredible DNA of 23 different star nations that were also in the light, that we would become more powerful than they could ever hope to be. And they did not want that to take, they did not want that to take place. Okay, so they have kept Earth clamped down on for a long, long time. But that's what this whole epic adventure is about. This thing has went from Lyra to Sirius to Orion and back to Earth over the course of millions and millions of years. And now, on this beautiful little blue planet, we are living out the final days and the ascension of Earth into the light as star beings. Okay, we are changing from Homo sapiens to Homo luminous, and this is our birthright. We are taking back who we were, who we are. And beings from all of these different star systems have incarnated as humans to be on this planet at this time to assist at the ground level with the awakening. And because they come from higher awakened civilizations, they have a natural homing beacon that is towards the light and that is towards remembering. They can tell that they didn't fit in perfectly here. They can tell all of that. And that's the point. You didn't come here to fit in with this closed consciousness that existed on this planet for thousands of years. You came here to help change this society into the loving light civilization that we are taking it into. And from all accounts, we are succeeding, and not only succeeding, but doing it at a very great scale. Okay. So yeah, it is the most exciting time to be alive on Earth, because literally we are wrapping up a tale of epic galactic polarity that has taken place, and we're doing it on one little planet on the outskirts of the Milky Way system. And it's just absolutely phenomenal, because this will, as we transmute all of the lower vibrational frequencies and everything else, we are transmuting that through the lives of all of the ancestors. Okay, we are transmuting timelines. We are transmuting because only on in the third dimension is time a linear basis. And so as we transmute all of this, it echoes out throughout existence. And we literally are transmuting the pain and the suffering throughout all of this time into the light. Okay, when you think about that, this is truly an epic tale of love and light. You know, people,
Amazing,
yeah,
amazing, Marty.
it really is. And we on Earth have gotten, we're used to saying that, oh, the battle of light versus dark. Well, the only place that there is a battle of life of light versus dark is in the third and lower fourth dimensions. There's not a battle of light versus dark in the higher dimensions. In the higher dimensions, it is the unconditional love and light of the Creator. It is only when beings come into lower densities and they feel that state of separation and aloneness from Source that they go into the fear that creates the ego and goes, oh, I've got to take care of myself. This is me, this is mine, this is, and give me that fire, I need it. And we do all of that sort of thing. And it is that separation from Source that creates the ego, that creates all of the darkness. And so when people say that, how could the Creator allow so much darkness? The Creator didn't. The Creator simply granted free will. And it is humans in their unconscious state and other beings in unconscious state, in their state of separation from Source, that actually do harm and this. So the whole point of our lesson of being here is realizing which one feels better. Do you like the love and the light, or do you like the feeling of the darkness and the separation and the fear and the hatred? Which one feels better to you? And I think any wise being will say, well, you know what? I kind of like the love and the light. No, that just feels right to me. And so that's that when a civilization gets to the point that that is what they choose, that's when they are going through this ascension. And luckily, that is exactly what is taking place right now on Earth. So,
Fantastic, Marty. That's amazing. Incredible knowledge that you have, and this needs to be shared so that we can understand our truth. You know, one thing I'd like to go back to and get you to discuss, if you don't mind, you were talking about Earth being a meeting place or a living library.
yeah,
And so how a lot of different star nations contributed
yeah,
to the creation of Earth here. So
yeah.
you see, when you mentioned that to me, a while ago, I thought, well, that makes sense because, for example, you said that the Lyrans are feline um, beings, and so we have lions and feline animals on Earth. So I imagine they contributed to the creation of the feline animals on Earth.
Mhm.
And then we have all of the other animals on Earth, the amphibians, the reptiles, the insects,
Mhm.
the fish life, all of the sea life, really, the
Yeah.
mammals, um, and so on, all of the creatures on Earth. So, does that mean that different star nations um, were the energetic creators of those animals on Earth, different star nations that created the different animals on Earth?
I believe they seeded those life forms on Earth
Okay.
as part of like kind of like donating to the library. Okay. They
Okay.
Yeah, they donated those. Now, an interesting aspect to that is that the dolphins and the whales were donated by the Syrians because Sirius has a wide variety of life forms on it, and many of those planets are water planets. And many of the Syrian souls actually incarnate into the dolphin and whale. They are truly higher dimensional beings that exist at a level that is, I, you know, people think humans are all that in a bag of chips. Well, we got a lot to learn, and from a spiritual standpoint, the dolphins and the whales have a uh, higher dimensional consciousness than we do, than on average Earth humans do. So uh, they
Okay.
they perform
So
great
the
functions.
so these animals or similar are on other planets in the cosmos,
Yeah,
um, and then have been contributed or created um, on Earth
yeah,
by the other star nations. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, have
Yeah.
you heard of the mantis beings?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It is said that if you can uh, focus your awareness on a praying mantis, that you can actually connect with the mantis beings through them. Okay.
Okay.
Um, there's this world is nothing like what we've been taught because the all of existence exists within the living uh, conscious energy of the creator. And so in fact, that what that means is that all that exists is not only the creator, but all that exists is life. And when you look at it from that point of view, it is not remarkable. It's common sense that not only distance means nothing, but also communication is ubiquitous because it's all consciousness. Okay, so yeah, as we go on, we're going to quit thinking like a human and start thinking like beings of light, and that's when doors are really going to start flying open, and it's
Okay.
beautiful.
Well, that might lead us into, because we're talking about the different star nations and what they contributed to Earth, um, and their traits and characteristics.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe we could talk about that, or I'll listen to you, and if I've got any questions, I could
Okay. Well,
ask you. Yeah.
I guess I can go through a few of them. Um, I won't read all of their stuff, but I will give kind of an overview the best I can. Um, I will start with the Arcturians. The Arcturians didn't necessarily contribute DNA because they are totally an etheric civilization. They are from the fifth through the good Lord 12th dimension. They are the shepherds of this region, and they have been watching over Earth for millions of years, at least 10 million that we know of. So they have been watching over Earth and watching over this library and taking care of it and making sure, okay? And they literally exist at the level of the angelic realm, and that is their energy as well. They are beautiful beings of love and light. They are supreme masters of healing and energy medicine. Okay, they are the uh, the keepers of and guardians of many of the gateways, uh, portals into this universe, as well as uh, this galaxy. Um, they are masters of crystal technology. On their planet in the higher dimensions, they have libraries of crystals that they have created for very specific purposes. And if you want to really get into working with crystals, you cannot beat opening up communication with the Arcturians. Okay, they are phenomenal. Um, they they have holographic healing chambers. They teach so much high spiritual truth it isn't funny, and they have the shortest ascension manual of any race yet that at least I know of, and it's simply two words: be love. And that's an Arcturian. Okay. They really simplify things, but it's absolutely beautiful and it's absolutely correct. Okay. So they are kind of the shepherds that have been watching over us for uh, way longer than we've been here. The Pleiadians, they have created such a beautiful, heart-centered, compassionate, loving society, that again, you just, it's like, okay, yeah, I want to be like you guys. That's the way I see my beloved Pleiadian brothers and sisters. They really do connect with the divine feminine, and that is because of the love and compassion and heart-centered aspect of the divine feminine wisdom. They are specialists in emotional wisdom. Um, if you want to talk family systems, relationships, um, all of this type of things, natural healing arts, and even sacred sexuality and tantra and all of that, you might want to go talk to some Pleiadians, okay? Because they're masters at that. They truly have. The Syrians, Um, and these are all loving beings of light, but the Syrians kind of lean a little bit more towards the divine wisdom and spiritual technology. Okay. They're the guardians of sacred knowledge and ancient records. They're experts in sound healing. They're not the only ones, but they are uh, experts in sound healing and frequency modulation. They are incredible scientists of the sacred sciences and mathematics. Um, and because so many of their planets are water planets, they are masters and specialists of the consciousness of water. Okay. So right now, there's a lot of information that is coming in, and a lot of people are really saying, we need to pay more attention to the consciousness of water. And in order to do that, you might want to call on the Syrians to overlight you, to help open up some of the beautiful mysteries. Okay. They are also master geneticists. That's why they were the ones that stepped forward and said, let us help, because we can do this. Okay. So I often look at the Syrians as, we wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for them. Uh, they're they're just incredible. Um, from there we go on to the Lyrans, uh, and that the Lyrans were also master geneticists. Um, they If you need to learn personal power, self-esteem, and self-actualization, and maybe you need a little bit boost in your physical strength, vitality, leadership, sovereignty, and all of that, you might want to connect with the Lyrans. Okay. They are they're keepers of primal warrior wisdom and courage. Okay. The actual Lyrans are the only ones that the Dracos feared in physical combat, because they're the only ones that ever beat a Draco consistently in combat when they were in the physical. Okay. But they have maintained that they are beings of love and light. Um, but they've maintained the lessons that they learned uh, in their struggles to get where they are today. The Vegans are very similar to the Lyrans, but they do lean a little bit more towards the feminine, the divine feminine, and artistic expression and creativity. Okay. Um, they're masters of light technology, the photonic sciences, agricultural knowledge, all of this. Um, and it's, to me, it's just incredible, because both the Lyrans and the Vegans, the ancient royal lineages, are feline. And I, for some reason, I just have this affection for them and this loving honor of them, that I know there has to be a close tie between myself and them, because of how the emotions that come up within me when I connect with them. It's just absolutely beautiful. Um, Another one that is not talked about as much, but is coming more to the forefront, and people are starting to talk about more, is the Andromedans. Now, I'm not talking about the Andromedans from the Andromeda galaxy. I'm talking about the constellation Andromeda here in our own Milky Way. And yes, we do have Andromedans visiting from their galaxy, but today we're talking about the local Andromedans here in the Andromedan galaxy. And these are masters of freedom and galactic democracy. Okay. they very much stand for helping civilizations create democracies that actually work and 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 living under freedom. They're they're really involved with that. Okay. Of course, they have high technology, quantum physics, space-time travel, and all of that. They have incredible advanced healing technologies, and they really are masters of the blue ray healing. Okay. They use they're etheric beings, and they're usually described as being kind of a silvery blue or a bluish silver, whichever way you want to call it. But they work a lot with the blue ray, and it is a very healing, a high level healing frequency. It's it's just beautiful. Okay, so the Andromedans are here, and they've always been here, and they're connecting with a lot of humans, and a lot of starseeds are here that are from Andromeda, uh, because they volunteered. They're really cool. Um, the Hathors are a group that were actually not from this local universe originally, and I don't know how much this is taught, but it was actually the Arcturian master uh, Sanat Kumara, who went through one of the stargates to a local universe neighboring ours and discovered the Hathors in their local universe. And when he found them, he realized that even though they didn't look anything alike each other, their frequencies were very, very similar. And they immediately hit it off. And he knew what the probable timelines were for Earth. And so he invited a group of the Hathors to come into literally this solar system, not just this galaxy, but this solar system, to help uh, with Earth, because he saw what, and this was about 20,000 years ago, he actually saw what was going to happen on Earth and wanted their help. And the Hathors, they did come in. They decided to take up their residency on Venus rather than on Earth, but they are true masters of sound and vibrational healing. And the foremost example of that I can give anybody that's watching this is go look up Tom Kenyon, okay, and go visit his website. He is an incredible man that records sounds that the Hathors channel to him, and it provides true sacred sound vibrational healing. And it's some of the most incredible work that's available on Earth today, as far as I'm concerned. The Hathors have the energy, just like the Arcturians. To know them is to love them, and they were very, very much involved with the creation of the ancient Egyptian civilization, and that is why they have the Temple of the Hathors in Dendera. They People try to say that the Hathors are a goddess of a cow, okay, and that is not true. The reason that even came about was that if you think of any land animal that has the peaceful vibrational frequency of a dolphin, it's going to be a cow. Okay. Cows are very docile, very peaceful animals. You don't want to make them mad, okay, because they are big and anything will defend itself. But if you are nice to cows, they are very loving creatures. And because of that peaceful, serene energy, that is what the humans connected to the Hathors, loving, peaceful energy. And so you can go and you can even look up the images of the Hathors in Egypt that they have carved, especially at Dendera, but also the outside of the Cairo Museum of Antiquities. They have still some of the busts of the Hathors. And when they lowered their frequency to come down into this density, they stand typically around 14, 15 feet tall. And that is what their heads look like, okay, to humans in third dimension. So you can actually see what the Hathors looked like. And I really love working with the Hathors. I highly advise people to connect with them. So I could go on and on. I don't know if there's any more that you might be interested, but if there's
Just
any,
thinking about anything, and maybe some of the other ones that are linked to Earth, like you were talking about before, the praying mantis, so maybe the mantis beings.
okay, that's very, very obscure. I don't really have a whole lot of information on the mantis beings. I do know that when people are being contacted by a mantis being, it is usually through a very strong vibration and this rapid clicking vibration sound. Okay. And it's kind of unnerving because if you don't know what it is, it would really disturb you. But if you relax into it, then you can actually start making a connection with them. Okay. They are very, very high level. So they've been around for probably billions of years, and they're very high level as far as the spiritual growth goes. Okay. So I don't know anything about their homeworld or where they come from. I just know that almost everybody uh, listens to them when they talk. Okay. Let's put it that.
I did think of one other being that a lot of people on Earth know about, and that's the Greys.
Okay.
Um, so that might be a good one to chat about because they're sort of, I guess, in our movies and a lot of,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of information on all books, and there's the Roswell in the States, where you're from, Marty, Roswell incident, and there's, so much information that sort of came out about the Greys. So maybe if you could just talk about that.
Okay. Now the Greys are a very interesting civilization. They uh, they actually were very, very, very much like us at one point. They were an Adam Cadmon body type, and they had their own world, and they had polarity, much like Earth, and they did destroy their planet pretty much through nuclear war. Okay, and that drove the survivors underground. And when this nuclear holocaust took place, it made them sterile. Okay. So the only way that they could maintain their line of their lineage was through cloning. Okay. And because of that, I don't care how advanced you are, but eventually a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy begins to weaken and break down. Okay. And so literally they were starting to see, after a long time, but still they were starting to see the breakdown of their uh, genetics. And they realized that we as a species might not be able to survive. This is not good. And so they they're very, very, very mental and very intelligent. Okay. They had bred out of themselves, in their cloning and everything else, they had bred out uh, a great deal of their emotional capabilities, because they saw that it was their emotions that caused them to have this war that destroyed their planet. And so they thought, we don't want to go there. We don't want to do that again. So we're going to take that out of ourselves, and we're going to devote ourselves to mental clarity and all of this. And so they have evolved into a being of incredible mental and analytical knowledge. Okay. They're sharp as a tack as far as that goes. But they didn't have the ability to really have emotions. And without emotions, you have no empathy, no compassion, and all of this. And and what they didn't realize, it really stunts your spiritual growth. You can advance in technology, but you can't advance in spiritual growth without the emotional aspects of who you are. Okay. Um, so they eventually got to the point where they uh, were communicating telepathically, and they communicated with the spiritual hierarchies and said, hey, we've heard through the grapevine that there is a planet there that has third dimensional humans that are very, very, very much like us when we started out. And so we would like to address our situation here with you concerning them. And they said, if we consult with souls before they incarnate, would you allow us to, if they say yes before they incarnate, would you allow us to uh, take them on board during their physical lifetime and take DNA samples so that we can combine that with our own and uh, allow us to continue to live, okay, to create a new hybrid civilization where we can live on? And the spiritual hierarchy said, well, as long as you get information from those individuals and they give it freely, yes, you can do that. Okay. And that is how uh, Zetas come to Earth. And that was the agreement that they had. Now, like any civilization, not everybody follows the rules. And because they weren't way up the spiritual chain, okay, they masters over the physical and technology, but they weren't necessarily all that spiritually advanced. There were some groups that broke off. Now, some of these groups might have broken off before the Zetas themselves came here. Some of it might have been after. It doesn't matter, but there were other Zetas that also uh, arrived on Earth and did not follow the protocols. So most of the abductions that have been talked about have been agreed to by the humans that were abducted, and they agreed uh, to help the Zetas save their civilization. There's been a small amount that have not been a part of that. And that is that's a lot where between the rogue Zetas and humans, Earth humans, that is where a lot of the forced abductions take place. That's where the cattle mutilations take place. That's where a lot of the scare tactics have taken place in order to try to make people afraid of the Star Nations. And so it's been a lot our own governments, our own militaries, our own people that have been working against the love and the light to create fear. And that's why so many people are in fear, and the entire dialogue is shifted towards fear when it comes to the Star Nations. So the Zetas themselves are now they are really moving along, and through their hybrids, they are ascending into the light. And many of them you would have to call ascended already ahead of us, because they've had a big head start. Okay. And so they see the wisdom of the love and the light right off the gate, right as they're born. They naturally see that love and light decision that I talked about, and they know which way they have to go. So
so Marty, the Zetas you're talking about, they're the Greys from
yeah,
Zeta Reticuli, from the Zeta Reticuli. Is
yes,
that their home, the planet where they're from?
yeah, yeah,
Okay. So I just want to ask you too about the Essassani. So my understanding they're somehow linked in with the Greys. Is that correct?
yes. Both the Essassani and the
The Zetas
Yael.
or
Okay.
the Yael.
Yeah, the Yael and the Essassani are just two of the hybrid races that have been created uh, in by the Zetas to help their race live on. I do believe they've actually created even more than those two, but the ones that we know of are going to be the Essassani and the Yael. Those are the ones that we will probably be introduced to first. I believe the Pleiadians will be the first ones that we have physical contact with, but the Zetas, I should say the Yael and the Essassani will be right behind there because they are part human.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
slowly we will be introduced to the ones that look more different from us, because again, they never want to create fear or shock or anything like that. So
Yeah, and I think that's part of the disclosure that's going on now, because so many more people are starting to able have these connections and communication and contact and experiences, like a couple of experiences that I had with the Palladians and the Arcturians. But there's thousands and thousands of people all over the world now who are having these, interactions and experiences, and able to channel, communicate, express wisdom, teachings, and I think that's part of the disclosure, is slowly introducing us to the fact that there really is life outside in the cosmos away from Earth that's never been told before. It's kind of been hidden or not a part of our truth, or covered up, or it's not talked about, but it's starting to be more talked about openly now. There's so much information on the internet and on YouTube, and there's a lot of people that are starting to be able to channel openly, and receive this information from all different types of beings, Star Nation beings in the cosmos, which is fascinating, and a good starting progress and stepping stone for us to move towards open contact in a bigger way and find out about our truth of the galactic history about what you're talking about today.
Yeah, yeah, it's incredible. Another aspect of disclosure that I wanted to touch on um, is actually something that is considered fringe uh, folklore or whatever, but that is the truth and reality of what we know as the the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch. In Australia, they call them the Yowley, the abominable
The Yowie.
snowman.
Yeah,
Okay,
the Yowie. Yeah, the
yeah,
Yowie.
um,
Yeah.
and what they are is actually the uh, original bipedal hominid that was naturally seated on this planet that was meant to be the living librarians to the living library. Okay. And what I know that if you've ever looked into any of it from all over the world, there are this species exists on every single continent. Every single indigenous peoples talks about and they don't consider it folklore. It's very matter of fact that yes, they exist. Okay. They exist in the remote areas. They don't like to be around humans, but they exist, period. And every single continent has them. You will also see that when people try to track them, their footprints will go on for a ways, and then all of a sudden they just stop. They just end. Whether it's in a field of snow in the Himalayas, the tracks just stop, or whether it's in mud or wherever, they just stop. And that's because this life form has actually developed right alongside of us this entire time, but they don't communicate with verbal language the way we do. They are telepathic. They have developed the natural higher uh, and actually even higher dimensional awareness that we would have developed had we not been tinkered with. Okay. And so are, they actually do incredible energy work for the planet. They do a lot of things, and they don't like to be around Homo sapiens because they know the history and they know that a lot of us can't be trusted. Okay, um, too many want to kill them. Too many, just are not of love and light. But part of disclosure that's going to take place is the disclosures of incredible things like this on our own planet, because uh, these beings actually do communicate with the star nations. They are doing incredible work for the planet, and that while they live here, they're doing their job. They're doing incredible work. And as humans grow up and start to open up our minds to uh, all that is, we're going to realize that we've lived beside these incredible beings for so long and we know nothing of them. But as when we can start walking in love and light, then we can start having a relationship with them and start cohabitating in a more close relationship with them. And I have also heard, and I don't know that it's true, but I have also heard that they don't like the term Yowley.
Oh, right. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
yeah, and I don't know what Yowley means, so
No, I don't.
I have no idea. Maybe you could find out,
Yeah.
or the term.
Our good, yeah, well, our good friend Lisa, she's had experience and um, contact or, some experiences I haven't myself, and I don't know much information about them. But I noticed when you were talking, the lights flickered in my room here, which is interesting.
All
So
right.
So then I resonated with it and feel there's some thing there for me, but so maybe that's something that I'll discover. But yeah, I haven't had much experience with them or know much about them myself, but I could find out.
Yeah, yeah. Lisa did tell me that she's had some very wonderful
Yeah,
experiences
yeah, that's right.
communicating with them.
She said they're lovely, very
Yeah,
loving and yeah. Um, yeah, amazing, Marty. Something else I wanted to ask you about. So really, the human being, just like all the other beings in the cosmos from the different star nations,
mhm.
we're really a new species or a hybrid species that's
Yes.
been created um, from the DNA of many star nations.
Yep.
So, um, okay. And so what I've been contemplating, I guess, because we reincarnate so many times to Earth in different bodies, so the human being of the all the different DNA strands of all the different star nations and this new species is the body, the biological body. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so then how does that work then? For example, when we incarnate, because we're light energy, our soul or spirit, we're light. That's what our spirit and soul is. So when our biological human body passes away, dissolves, dies, then our spirit, our soul, our light, our energy leaves the vehicle, the physical body, and goes home
Yeah.
into the light. Okay, so then when we reincarnate again, our light returns to Earth, our soul, our spirit, our light, our energy returns to Earth in a new body. So then those DNA is activated in the new body. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay. So
Right.
does that mean that um, okay. All right. So those all those DNA strands are always the same in every single human body, the creation of the new species. And then so it doesn't matter what body we're in, we're just spirit, soul, light in a new body, and we'll be activating those Star Nation DNA in whichever body that we come to Earth in. Is that right?
Well,
Reincarnate into Earth in.
to some extent, yes. My understanding is that the different races on Earth, what we call the different races, are the result of different star nations' DNA. There were some that everybody has, like the Pleiadian and Sirian, okay, that everybody that Homo sapiens has, but then other star nations contributed different DNA. And that's why, to be honest, that's why some people don't get along with each other and they don't even know why. It's because they've got DNA from star systems that don't get along. Okay.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they don't even know why. They just know, ooh, you don't feel right. Okay. And
Okay.
so that's where a lot of this prejudices come up with. Um,
Okay.
but
Okay. So sorry. So just a quick question. Sorry to cut you off, but because that was something that I considered or contemplated, and I'm glad that we're talking about it now because it's helping to answer my question, is that different races from different countries
uh-huh,
around the world um, will have been contributed to different star nations. So not all human beings on Earth have the same strands of star nation DNA.
correct.
It can be it can be different from different race depending on which country you're born into and what race you're born into. Is that right?
Yes. Now that's an important point, and I'm glad you brought that up because have you noticed that throughout history, a recorded history, which only, let's say, goes back 6,000 years, but have you noticed that throughout recorded history, the controllers over society have attempted to prohibit interracial breeding and marriage. They have
Okay.
really, really tried to stoke up anything they can to stop people from mating with other races. Okay. And the reason for that is actually because, can you imagine the level of being that will be created when all of the races of humans, Earth humans, are biologically mixed together? We will have the DNA of about 23 different star nations within our own being. Can you imagine the light codes and the incredible spiritual abilities that come with that? That's what
Amazing. Yeah.
that's what they were afraid of. We will
Okay.
be beings that are more powerful, holding more light than they could ever have a chance to deal with. And that's why they have created this division so strongly on this planet. And we need to see through it and understand that it was their fear that caused this. And
Okay.
yeah, so it's I think in the future of humanity, all of the DNA will end up being in everyone, and you're going to see a homo luminous that shines brighter than anything else that's ever been. It,
Okay. Amazing. Thank you for clarifying that, because that was just something that I thought was the truth, but I wasn't 100%
yeah.
confirmed for me. So that makes a lot of sense to me now. And do you know which star nations contributed to the different races in the different countries around the world, Marty?
No, I've never been able to find that information.
So
Um,
I guess that would be incredible information to find out, because that way, then interaction of creating babies,
yeah,
getting the DNA into newborns, with the mixing of the different races and the way to introduce what you're talking about. So it's bringing in more strands of the star nations into a newborn,
yeah,
when you're mixing the races. Um, so yeah, that's pretty amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I think we've covered so much today. I guess one other question I've got, going right back to the start, the beginning. I've known about the Anunnaki and their story, but I've never known what star constellation they're from. Where they're from, the Orions, are
Well,
they? Or
they're not they. I don't know that they how much they had to do with Orion. I know that it was after the Orion Wars that they came here. It is said that they come from the constellation of Cygnus,
okay,
and but as you and I both know, um, people get around, you know, and when you can zip from one star system to another at the speed of thought, which a lot of these do, um, you know, distance means nothing. And so I have heard on too many occasions to discount that they actually came from Cygnus. Um,
okay,
but uh, it was long after the Orion Wars had taken place.
okay,
But a lot of souls, okay, because the Anunnaki came from Cygnus, but a lot of souls that came to Earth did come from after they had inhabited the Orion system. And
okay,
so that's why, because the same souls have actually, a lot of souls have actually partaken in all of these steps throughout this incredible long journey. And that's why some of us said, oh, this is the final act. I'm not missing it. I'm going to be there. You know, this is what I came for.
Okay.
So
And so just something I've thought of too, I guess Earth's been through so many different ages and cycles and eras of change,
yeah,
um, because all of the species that we have on Earth now, all the different animals and plant life and so on, has not always been that way. You know, there were times when it was a dinosaur era, you know, and so it's evolved and changed over millions, billions of years, with the with Star Nations contributing um, to Earth's evolution.
right, right.
Okay, okay. Um, and so Lyra, I've heard termed as sort of like the nurturing basket of the soul or the birthing of the soul. Um, is that a good sort of right information that a lot of souls were created there, or that's where they first came through to being a being in Lyra, and then went out into all different parts of the cosmos from there, like you were talking about earlier?
Um, I don't know that I would not say that souls were created to start at Lyra. Uh,
Okay,
I would not say that. I, I I would just say that the Adam Cadmon body type was created on Lyra for souls to incarnate into, if they
okay, okay,
if they
okay.
choose. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
because
Okay.
the whole point of incarnating is experience that you can't get in the higher realms. The only way to truly learn something is to experience it firsthand. And
Yeah.
I've been there, I've done that, I learned it the hard way. Now it is in my being. I know this. Okay. And
Hmm.
so we incarnate into a very wide variety of situations so that we can say that, so that we can have those experiences. And every experience we have expands our consciousness and our growth. And that's what it's all about. So
Hmm.
um
Yeah, amazing. And incredibly great time or era to be on Earth now, as you know, Earth is raising its vibration consciousness as we are, and as you say earlier, our DNA is activating and awakening um, within us, and I guess that's linked to why people are starting to awaken to their psychic and mediumship abilities, like
yes,
like telepathy, for example, because that's what a lot of the light beings or the star beings in the star nations in the cosmos communicate, and that's within our DNA. That's what they contributed to. Just one example that they've contributed to us
yeah,
as a human being, and so that's being activated now as Earth's going through its spiritual evolution or shift, and consciousness and is shifting to a higher vibration. So,
yeah,
um, so that'll help people to make sense as to why their psychic abilities are coming online, is because they're starting to return to their true nature of who they are, how they were created as a human being,
yep,
through the DNA of the Star Nations, which is amazing, isn't it?
yes. And as a matter of fact, the previous 2 days I've been teaching a Reiki seminar, and one of the individuals actually uh, realized that they are a star seed and knew exactly who they were. And a lot of those gifts came online while she was practicing the Reiki. And it was really beautiful to see that happen in right in front of our eyes, in front of her own eyes, because she didn't even know she had those abilities until she actually started, and that's why that's why I champion Reiki so often, is that it really does. It's probably the fastest method of spiritual growth that I know of, because you're literally channeling the living life force of the creator. And how do you bring on better than that? I don't know of any technique. And so
Okay.
it's really beautiful to see people come online like that.
Okay. So the Reiki helps us to be able to activate the DNA of the star nations that's within us.
Yeah.
Okay. And then something that would be very beneficial to us as well, if we could find out, is to find out um, what individual, as a person, like a human, which star nations have contributed to our DNA. As we were talking about before, the different races have different star nations that have contributed to those races. If you could somehow find out what your makeup was, which DNA star nations within you, you could help to tune into that and activate that. Um, so, yeah, I
The
guess we could, I don't, I guess we could ask that in meditations and things, which is
yeah, but
a way of finding out.
the problem with that, okay, is one, the soul comes in having its origin, right? Okay. But, and I believe this, I remember doing it. We pick our parents, and we pick our
Yeah.
parents according to our physical parents, according to the experiences and uh, issues that they have, so that we can have those genetic predispositions to have those experiences in our own life, because those are the ones that we wrote into our script for our soul's growth. Okay, so we pick that exact DNA for our own growth and spiritual development. So when you ask what your lineage is, you have to be very specific about what you're asking. Are you asking what lineage did you receive from the DNA from your mother and father? Or are you asking about your soul's origin? So
Okay.
it, I hate to complicate things, but that really
No, no,
needs to be a
no, no.
differentiation.
Yeah, yeah, no, you're not complicating it at all. It's good clarity to know, because there's the two different aspects to it. Is your soul's origin, and then the parents that you've chosen. Because you've chosen those parents because they have Star Nation DNA,
Mhm.
which, and then that's going to contribute to the DNA as when you're born. So I'd always known we chose our parents before we incarnated for certain reasons of learning and spiritually growing, and it could be also to learn things as well. But I didn't. I've never clued on to the fact that it was linked back to the Star Nation DNA and activations of that. Um, and that's part of our spiritual growth, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
um, fantastic, Marty. Well, this has been a pretty awesome chat.
It
Um,
has. It has indeed. Um,
is there anything else you want to talk about?
well, no, I just want to make one little comment about there has been some cases where they have discovered like mummies in the Atacama Desert, and such as that. And every time, and I really don't trust what is told to the public, okay, the reports that are told to the public, but I will simply say this. When you take under consideration that we are the okay we are the offspring of our progenitors, which are the star nations around us. And we take our DNA and compare it to the DNA of a being that is one of them. How much difference do you expect to find? Okay. It's gonna appear to be like 99, more than 99% identical. Okay. So when they come back and you look at the mummies from Atacama, and you see those beings, that is not a deformed human being. That is not a human that had genetic defects. Okay. Those are star nations. Those are members of the star nations that were mummified way back when they were living amongst us. Okay. And the fact that they turn around and say, oh, well, the DNA is human DNA. Well, how much difference do you expect to find? I mean, good Lord, 2% change in DNA creates a chimpanzee. What do you expect to find? It's going to be like 99.9% like ours because we are the offspring of them. Hello. Okay. So I just want to toss that in there for people that are looking at the genetic science and stuff like that. Don't expect to find a whole lot of difference between us because they are our progenitors. And we should kind of expect that. So anyway,
Wonderful.
yeah.
All right. Should we call it? I think that's
Yeah.
it, isn't it?
I think we've talked for almost 2 hours now. So
All right.
it's probably time to wrap this.
Well,
So
yeah, well, it's a pretty, well, we've just talked about billions of years of galactic history in 2 hours. So, I mean, it's only a blimp of a summary, isn't it, really?
yeah. Um,
Not a blimp, a blip.
yeah. So once again, if you'd like to give your contact information or
Sure.
share
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. So, if anyone wants to get in touch and just chat spiritually, I'd love to meet people. Always up for a spiritual chat. Um, I'm happy to do some free sessions for people if they, because it give me good practice. I'm not actually working spiritually at the moment, but working towards that over the next few years. Um, I'm able to communicate with spirit guides, depending on what spirit want to share with you, whether it's some guidance of some sort, some higher perspective for you, or some knowledge you might know or need to know, or some awareness, some things that are going to help you in your spiritual journey or in your life. Um, Also, I can communicate with deceased relatives if they come through to bring through messages for you. And yeah, a few different other things, energy healing, past lives come through to me of people when I'm talking to them sometimes. Um, it, it really depends on what spirit want to share with you that's going to be in your highest and best interest to help you in whatever way is best for you. And it's always of the highest vibration of love, light, truth, wisdom for you. And yeah, generally just to have a spiritual chat about different things. I'm really happy to do that. So you can contact me at ROH Dixon, ROHDIXON at hotmail.com.
All right. Fantastic. Fantastic. That every time you talk about that, it's like, okay, I'm signing up. So anyway,
Yeah,
it's absolutely marvelous to see you once again, as always. And as people can tell, my name is Marty Rawson. I do a lot of different spiritual work. I am an author of the book It Doesn't Have to Be This Way, A Spirit Alliance. That's available on Amazon and Audible. I am a Holy Fire 3 Karuna Reiki Master, both online and in person. So if you really want to catapult your spiritual growth and that, I don't know of a better way to do it than with practice in Reiki. Because channeling, like I say, channeling the light of the Creator is as close as you can get. Okay. I also do Ayurvedic consultations on occasion, and I am a level 5 facilitator of the Melchizedek method. Um, so I do quite a bit of stuff, and you can contact me at a Spirit Alliance, all one word, at gmail.com. And most of all, I ask that you be kind to one another, and may you walk in peace, love, and light. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day.